Hello, back to making our key in 3D Studio Max. There's one thing I wanted to mention before I kind of launch off into making the key, and that's why the key actually shows up in this viewport at all. It may not be showing up in your viewport, and that's because I've selected realistic here as the kind of mode for this viewport. By default, they're all set to wireframe, except for this one, which is realistic. So if you want the reference image to show up in the top viewport or any other viewports, you're going to have to pull down this menu here and select realistic instead of wireframe. So I'm going to go back to realistic here. Um, so now what I'm going to do is trace out a torus on the key right here. So a torus is just a ring shape. And I apologize if you can hear my dog drinking in the background. So I'm going to click on the torus shape right here under standard primitives, and I'm going to just sort of drag that out on the reference image. Actually, I'm going to do that again. I'm going to hit Control Z. Okay, so the first click and drag sets the kind of the outer diameter, and then the next click sets the outer diameter. So let me try that again, and I'm going to kind of try to get that about. That's about right. So now I'm going to use the select and move tool to kind of position that over top of the reference image. Now, what I could do is I could have made this much closer to the reference image. I could trace out a spline and then extrude the spline and then use a Boolean operation to cut out the elliptical hole in the center. But it's not worth it for this project. If you have a boss who's demanding absolute perfection, then do the more complicated method. But all we're trying to do is make a key here. So there we go. There's the ring for the key. And now what I'm going to do is make the shaft of the key. So that's going to be a cylinder. So what I'm going to do here is just click on cylinder, and I'm going to have a little bit of an issue here because as you see when I trace out the cylinder, it's going to be just a little bit, it's going to be hard to tell if I've got the dimensions properly here. So I'm just going to kind of take a guess at it there. And then what I'm going to do is rotate this thing so that it lies flat on the ground. I'm basically going to knock this thing over here like a tree. Actually, why don't I maximize the viewport, and then what I'm going to do is rotate this thing. Now I could sort of mess around with this, but I kind of want to get it exact. So I'm going to go down here and I'm actually going to enter a parameter to rotate this thing 90 degrees. There we go. And now I can position it in 3D space using the move tool. And I know you're saying, oh, it's too long and it's too thick, but we're going to get to that in a second. We're going to fix that right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go back to the 4 viewport layout. So I'm going to say restore viewport here. I'm going to click on the little plus sign. There we go. And now we can see this thing is too big and too long, but we knew that already. So what I'm going to do is go to the cylinder, and I should be able to find the under the modify panel, I can find the parameters for the cylinder, and I can go in here and I can kind of change them around. So that radius of 3 is starting to look pretty good, and the height, that's way too long. So let's just type in 100 there and just see if that brings it down. Okay, great. So now the thing is actually off to the side of the image, so I'm just going to grab it with the handles and pull it over. Now we're getting pretty close. All right, so maybe 110. Yeah, that's looking pretty good. Okay, so radius of 3 and height of 110. And then I kind of want to use the handles to line this whole thing up. There we go. So let me look at this thing from different sides here. Just want to make sure that the shaft is actually lined up with the top and the bottom of the key, and it looks like it is. So now that I've messed up this viewport, I can just sort of double click on this little hat control, and it should restore it. No? Okay, so it restores it to a perspective, and now let me pull down top. So now I've gone back to the top view. All right, now notice that the end of the key is rounded. So how do we do that? Well, let's put a chamfer modifier on it. So chamfering kind of means to smooth it out or round out the corners. So I'm going to go to the modify panel here. I'm going to pull down chamfer, and you'll see it's kind of rounded out the end there. Pull that. No, 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 no. Go back to top view. There we go. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is make the little bump right there. So that's the little stop that keeps the key from going too far into the lock. And that's going to be another cylinder as well. So what I'm going to do is click on the create panel right here, and I'm going to create another cylinder. I'll just kind of drag it out, best guess. And just like before, I'm going to kind of make a best guess at this thing and then go into the parameters and change it later. Okay, so there's my cylinder, and now I'm going to rotate this thing, and I'm going to put in -90 for the rotation. Actually, would positive 90 work? Positive 90 works too. Okay. Because it's symmetrical. And now what I'm going to do is click on the select and move tool, and now I'm going to push that thing. Oops, no, grab the wrong thing. I want to grab cylinder number 2 here, and I want to kind of push it down to the end, on the key where the stop is going to be. So this is where it really helps to have the different viewports. So now I can see that the shape of that thing is not quite right. So the radius is too big. Let me try 6. No, it's still too big. 5. That's pretty good. And then let's shrink down the height too. So maybe 6 for the height. There you go. So I'm just entering numbers over here in the panel. And let's just click off of that and see what it looks like. Yeah, let's maybe make it just a little bit bigger, 6.5 and 5.5. All right, it's kind of up to you. There you go. So we just want to make sure that that thing is kind of centered on the shaft of the key. And it looks like it's not. Let me zoom in here a little bit. You can see if I zoom in on this, it is not quite centered. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to go in here. Okay, now we're starting to look good here. There you go. So kind of line this thing up. What if I zoom in on this viewport? There we go. Now we're looking pretty good. So this is where it really helps to have, oops, I grabbed the reference image. It really helps to have the different viewports. There we go. So I can kind of line this thing up almost perfectly. There we go. Okay. And then same thing with this. Now that I've got that piece in place, I want to chamfer this thing just to smooth it out. And so that's under the modify panel right here. So let me pull down a chamfer. There's chamfer, and that's going to smooth it out. And if I want to smooth it out more, I can kind of crank it up. So there we go. There is the key with the shaft and the little stopper on it. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is attach that little stopper to the shaft of the key. So the way I do that is by, there's actually an attach operation for in the modify panel. So let me go on cylinder 2 here, and I'm going to add an edit poly to this thing, because if I want to merge something onto it, I have to edit the polygon, right? So I'm going to select edit poly. There we go. And now if I scroll down here, we should see an attach button. So there's the attach button. So I'm going to click on that, and then the next thing I click on is going to get attached to it. It's going to get merged. So watch over here on the panel on the left, I have 2 cylinders. If I now click on cylinder 1, you can see cylinder 1 goes away because it is now merged in with cylinder 2. They're now like they are now one shape. So so now I just need to create the little key thingies at the end that kind of click into the tumblers and the lock. So let me do that. So that's just going to be a box primitive. So let me click on the box here, and now I can go into my top viewport, and I'm just going to click. I'm going to kind of eyeball it here. That looks pretty good. And then obviously I need to give this thing some height. So let's see if we can zoom in on this and see if it looks, whoops, excuse me. There's our box. Box 1. Why do we have 2 boxes here? We should not have 2 boxes. So let me delete box 2 and double click on box 1 and see if I can find box 1 over here. So what I'm doing is moving the viewport around using the center mouse wheel. I'm holding the center mouse wheel down. So that looks pretty good. That looks like it's centered. Can I move this thing up or down? Okay, that's good. I'm using the top viewport here. And I also want to make sure that, oh, that's not going to matter. It doesn't matter that the box is actually sticking inside the key. That's totally fine. But the thing is that you want that thing to be symmetrical in cross section, so you want to see that the piece that we're actually designing is kind of half above the center plane and half below it. There we go. That's good. Okay. And now let's go look at the parameters for this thing. So it says that the height is 0.9. Let's just make it 1. That's good. Nice. Oops. Not 0.1, 1.0. There we go. Just kind of a nice even number. There we go. Okay. All right. So now what I'm going to do is make 2 little boxes and attach them to the piece that I just added. So I'm just going to zoom in with the mouse wheel a little bit. And same deal, I'm going to go to the Create tab, click on Box, and I'm just going to eyeball the little box here. That doesn't look like I got it quite right. There we go. That's pretty good. And then the height. So I'm going to now that I know that the height of the first piece was 1, I'm going to go in here and give this a height of 1. And I want to go in and I want to make sure that they're all lined up. So if I click on this piece, let me use the move to align the second piece so that it has the same height as the first piece. Oh, why does it keep doing that to me? All right, let me go to the box 1 here and see does it have a height? Negative 11.2. All right. This is not helping. Okay, that is pretty close. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to go here and give these things all the same height. And then now that I've got this little box here, box 2, I'm just going to right click on that and click clone, and I'm going to make a copy of it. And then slide the copy down over the other tumbler right there. Okay, so there I've got my pieces all kind of in the right place. And now I just want to hook them together. So I'm going to do that same thing that I did before. I'm going to use the attach operation. So let me click on box 1 here. Whoops, box 1. And then go to the modifier stack. And I'm going to add an edit poly to it because that will then let me attach things to it. So now I'm going to click attach and then click on box 2. And I guess that was box 3. Click on attach. And okay, so now you can see I've got my boxes all attached to each other. And well, what else can I do? I suppose I could have chamfered these things. Actually, why don't I do that? Why don't I put a chamfer modifier on it and see what it looks like? Here we go. That looks pretty good. And what else? You know what I should do? I should attach the box to the cylinder and then the cylinder to the torus. So this whole thing is one polygon. There are reasons like why you wouldn't want to do this. Like if you had an airplane with a propeller and you wanted the propeller to spin separately, you'd want to keep those as separate polygons. Because this object hierarchy up here actually shows up in Unity. If you have an object that's a series of nested polygons, you'll see that nesting in Unity. So I guess I'm just going to click on the, how am I going to do this? Let me go to the ring here. And click edit poly, attach, and then I'll attach the shaft to the ring. And what else? Then I'll attach the box to the torus, and now you see I have one thing here. I've got, let me maximize this. There we go. And so there's our key. There we go. Very nice. So what we'll do is we'll put a material on this inside of Unity. We can find a nice material, gold material or something, and stick it on there, because we don't know if the key is going to be gold or brass or whatever. And then the final thing you want to do is get rid of your reference image. You don't want that. So so the final thing I would do is just delete this thing, or hide it. I guess I would delete it just to make sure that it doesn't get exported into your final asset. So to export something, you just go up to the File menu and or the Max menu, and then you can go to Export, and then you can pick whether you want to export it as an FBX file or an OBJ file or a 3DS file. So anyway, there you go. Now you have a key that you can go throw in your Unity RPG. All right. If you have any questions about this, please ask, and thanks for watching.